Horses have the remarkable ability to help us discover or rediscover hidden elements of ourselves. The horse has no ego, it never lies, it accepts without judgment. It has the amazing power to awaken our mind, body, spirit, and soul. Join us in the journey of 7 beloved Hearts and Horses riders. When she speaks, her passion for horses is undeniable. I want connection and I want to feel alive. Sergeant Katie Zwiefka, a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps, served faithfully, committed to the principles and ideals that guided her into service. She had tremendous courage, discipline, and dedication, and used all of these qualities to defend our country. However, her battle was not over when she returned home. The invisible wounds of trauma demanded that she launch a whole new battle when she returned. She developed a tough shell around her heart. She locked those horrible experiences up deep inside her spirit. When she got home, she knew she couldn't continue to live life in that way. She had a strong desire to find her own voice and to trust again, but could not do it alone. Katie needed a bridge from her old world to the new one that was waiting for her. That's where Hearts and Horses came in to stand in the gap. Thanks to the horses and fellow veterans in the Hearts and Horses for Heroes program, Katie began to walk across the bridge and come back to herself. She made a particularly strong connection with Temple Bar, a strong-willed and completely charming gypsy vanner. She says, "Temple knew what he wanted. He didn't need validation from anyone or any horse. I learned to connect with the Temple side of myself. He represented the stubbornness and struggle I had within me. I learned to love myself and accept trauma and frustration. I learned to be kind to myself. When he acted up, I was patient with him. This taught me to be patient with myself and that I could be unconditionally loved by another being." Fast forward 3 years and we find Katie as an excellent instructor here at Hearts and Horses. She's attending graduate school to become a social worker and is wildly proud of her riders. Katie's growth from a young woman afraid to trust to one whose biggest desire in life is to connect and feel alive inspires us all. To watch Sarah Foley ride a horse, you wouldn't guess the difficult journey that has led her to be such an excellent rider. Sarah knows her mind and is confident in her abilities. She considers herself a more advanced horsewoman and has no problem handling a horse who's having an off day, taking an occasional buck or rear in stride. She's an old soul at 13, but it wasn't too many years ago that Sarah struggled with health issues that made it challenging to ride. She had distress at birth, which resulted in poor muscle tone as a young child. Her mom says she was more of an observer on the playground as opposed to actively playing like other children. She started in the Hippotherapy program at Hearts and Horses when she was just 2 years old and needed an instructor and 3 volunteers by her side. As her strength increased thanks to the help of the horse, Sarah quickly moved to the Therapeutic riding program where she focused on independence and riding skills. Her confidence skyrocketed. Sarah feels horseback riding is such an empowering experience and that she can do anything on a horse. She fell in love with the horses and riding and has never looked back. She now rides independently and quite well at that. Her favorite horse at the ranch is named Boomer, whom she has been riding for years. In fact, Sarah just performed a challenging demonstration on Boomer in front of a rousing crowd for her 10-year anniversary party at Hearts and Horses. Sarah says that Boomer is challenging, energetic, and has good and bad days. She says that she's become more experienced and calm because of her time with him. Sarah attributes her growth in physical strength as well as growth in confidence to her weekly riding. Sarah is a perfect example of the kind of strength that can be gained by partnering with a horse. When we think of growth in children, we often focus on the physical aspects of their development. How many inches have they grown? Where do they fall on the growth chart? Are they meeting all of the milestones for walking, talking, running? It's much more difficult to measure emotional growth. For children who grew up in a traditional environment, we assume everything is okay until we see evidence otherwise. But for kids like Joey, Savannah, and Berlin, emotional growth cannot be taken for granted. Emotional growth can be stunted in children who have experienced trauma. After a rough beginning, the kids landed in the loving home of their grandparents, who literally saved them. Retraining their systems to trust that adults were competent, loving, and dependable was no easy task. When the kids arrived at Hearts and Horses, they were very reactive and struggled to have positive relationships with others. It did not happen overnight, but slowly they began to trust that Hearts and Horses was a safe place to share their fears. No one judged them or made them do something they were uncomfortable with. They were in control for the first time in their lives. Grandma Deb attributes much of their emotional growth to the loving environment at Hearts and Horses. The dedicated staff, volunteers, and horses have been by their side since they started 3 years ago. The horses have taught them such valuable lessons over the years. Learning how to have positive relationships has clearly had a ripple effect in their lives. The horses helped them regain a sense of self-worth and respect for themselves and others. Thanks to Hearts and Horses and their own hard work, the emotional growth that Joey, Savannah, and Berlin have developed now matches the incredible physical growth and balance they've achieved. If you're going to meet Carolyn, prepare to fall in love instantly. She stands out in a crowd, always dressed to the nines, her beautiful silver hair curled to perfection, her makeup and nails utterly flawless. Carolyn looks forward to her twice-monthly visits to Hearts and Horses with her friends from Seven Lakes Memory Care. While most of her companions see each visit as a new experience, Carolyn somehow not only remembers Hearts and Horses, but is passionate about her horse, Sugar. Not surprisingly, Sugar's silvery gray coat coordinates beautifully with Carolyn's curls. Every girl needs a horse to coordinate with her hair. What's remarkable about Carolyn is that she seems to be creating new memories through her Hearts and Horses experience. These memories carry over when she gets back home. If she begins to feel down, all it takes is asking her to talk about Sugar, and she becomes the gregarious, cheerful woman that everyone knows and loves at Seven Lakes. Carolyn is very open and honest and will tell you about a childhood that was less than ideal. Her saving grace was months spent with an aunt and uncle in Texas who owned a cattle ranch. She and her cousins would hop on the family horses and herd cattle. She says it was the happiest time in her life. She says that Sugar reminds her of the horses she rode in those happy days, and she constantly pets and tells Sugar how much she loves her. Alzheimer's and memory care research is beginning to show evidence that seniors can create new memories if there's a sensory experience, especially if it involves animals, plants, and music. We can't prove it, but we think that Carolyn is making memories by connecting them to older, happier ones. Carolyn is a study in joy. She has grown in that joy personally and passes that along to the staff and volunteers around her. When she arrives, it's impossible not to smile. While many of us arrive at Hearts and Horses with lots of outside problems on our mind, Carolyn is a reminder that it's okay to live in the moment.
Where the buffalo roam, and the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Whoopee! Yay!